This is Ambazonia Calling. News, analysis, commentary, opinion, editorials. Ambazonia Calling is a co-production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. Welcome. My name is Ntumfoyn, Herbert, and I bring revolutionary greetings from our studios in Washington, D.C. to all of you, friends of Ambazonia and fellow Ambazonians on ground zero and across the globe.
From Bello in Ambazonia's northern zone to Idiki in the southern zone, La République du Cameroon terrorist forces are raining mayhem in Ambazonia. I am innocent here.
How can Kanto now call for the rule of law when he has witnessed countless acts of injustice against the people of Ambazonia and never called for the rule of law, even once? I am Chris Anu.
Anybody who is confused should know it. Get this line, underline this. Southern Cameroon is going to be free. We must be free. There is no negotiation about that. We must be free. This is Princess Harriet.
Canada has been using its Canada-Cameroon Center to prop up the kleptocratic regime of Mr. Biya at the expense of Ambazonian lives and sovereignty. This is the monk from Ibalikumato.
By any measure, FAKO's recent Brazil win is to be considered in the same category as the Basque Country diplomatic win sold by EGOFC a few months ago as our way to statehood. This is Tani Jude Agua Ozugen.
If we as a people are not careful, we will dream of Ambazonia, hope of Ambazonia, touch the flag, own an anthem, but we will not have a homeland of ours. This is a humble servant, Ebenezer Derek Mbongo Akwanga.
My name Napache, and I stand for support the arming of the guys on the ground.
Man for die today, they play. Oh. Hey, now God today. Oh. See how all the chakra today.
Cameroon separatists have claimed responsibility for shooting at a Cameroon airline passenger plane on Sunday as they approached Bamenda Airport.
This is edition 071 of Ambazonia Calling, coming to you this 8th day of December 2019.
Oh, freedom, freedom is coming, freedom is coming, freedom is coming, oh yes, I'm free.
We've got a fully loaded program for you this Sunday. We will begin with our editorial when I come back.
For making me to see this day.
Revolutions are not a spectator sport. Sadly, in the case of Ambazonia, there are more spectators than active participants. Too many in the diaspora are keen not to get on Biya's arrest at the airport blacklist. Millions in the homeland who were once very active, the very millions who poured into hamlet, village and town streets on the 22nd of September and the 1st of October 2017 to celebrate independence restored, are watching in the hope that freedom will be delivered by the few based in and vocal from the diaspora, or by the 20,000 young men and women who have taken up self-defense roles on ground zero. It does not help matters that the noisy street rallies of the diaspora have been replaced with the near silence of the graveyard. Millions of Ambazonians at home have assumed the spectator posture, awaiting deliverance from the hands of those who carry guns, scream "Wear them there" or "Watana Wata." In the diaspora, the sense of collective ownership of this revolution has been hijacked by at least 4 governments or governing councils, whose actions have further divided our people. Who can reasonably blame the people of Ambazonia for being lost in between directives coming from 5 interim governments and governing councils, each of them shouting different directions? Who else would not be lost if you had to follow directives from 5 GPS systems? The political hooligans who have thus claimed power have silenced anyone who does not want to have their good name tarnished in some social media outing by a legion of very partisan Ngong-Dok surrogates. Taking full advantage, the French government has gone back on the offensive on behalf of colonial Cameroon. The French, who once supported a statement by the United Kingdom on seeking a solution through negotiations, are expected to join China and Russia in opposing a peacekeeping mission to the Cameroons. The French are doing more. Paris is helping Yaoundé break out of the financial debt trap in which colonial Cameroon has been locked for a while now, unable to access funding from the international community. Thanks to the French, the African Development Bank recently approved funding for what it calls the Ring Road project. The loan amount is a ridiculous small 18 million euros, which, frankly speaking, would only tar the nearly 400 kilometers of the Ring Road if the tarring was to be done with mud, not asphalt. The important thing for France is that colonial Cameroon gets back on the donor dashboard. Last month, the World Bank Group cleared its first loan to colonial Cameroon in the form of a $200 million direct budget support that the dictator in Yaoundé can disburse without having to come back to Washington, D.C. to seek approval. As we will hear later in this program, the Canadians are looking after their economic, financial, investment and trade interests. The French and the Swiss are wrestling each other over who owns the port of Douala and what have you more. The top official at the United Nations has not stopped gazing at the golden statue from Yaoundé, and the leading official at that institution in charge of genocide prevention is more concerned about keeping a one and indivisible Cameroon than preventing genocide. The leaders of the African Union, the Commonwealth and the Francophonie are still unpacking their gifts from their recent gold statue shopping trip to Yaoundé. Last week, First Slave Dion Gute brought together the donor community to a meeting during which he invited them to turn their attention to post-conflict reconstruction. If Ambazonians must understand only one thing in these many flashing signs, it should be that no one out there really cares if Ambazonians are slaughtered in their thousands or in their millions. The world is more concerned about their bottom line than the Ambazonian lives that are on the line. That is why all Ambazonians who truly care for human rights, who truly long for and are ready to consent the sacrifice that is needed to reaffirm our sovereignty, must prepare for the next phase of our revolution. It is up to us Ambazonians. Any liberation movement that continues to insist that they can do this alone knows that they are essentially weakening the hand of Ambazonia. Any defense group on ground zero that does not recognize that civilians have a bigger role to play by staying fully engaged in this revolution is undermining the very objective it proclaims to be in pursuit of. And let me add this before someone misinterprets what I'm saying. Resisting colonization and defending ourselves is non-negotiable. The people of Ambazonia have to do whatever they need to do to survive in an existential fight. There are clearly two wars to be fought here, a diplomatic war and a military war, and fighting anyone without the other is making a fatal mistake.
Kenoni birambia mio Wirem yin sami mai faune wundo Wailunde Nkuma vishire fungu maveri lava kara wailundo Akara yuvi chungi mbia miora Lenvan viravi bifukba Mbia mefana jikobo Notify your brother, notify your brother. If we live like one family, we go conquer tomorrow. Notify your brother, notify your brother. If we live like one family, we go conquer tomorrow. Cause I believe in unity, cause I believe in unity. If we live like one family, we go conquer tomorrow.
Bobe Innocentia is here. He's got the first part of our news wrap-up for the week.
If we intended to bring it down, we could have brought it down.
This belief continues to mount among Ambazonians who are shocked by the outlandish claims of the FAKO faction of the IG group that IG forces in Ambazonia shot at a civilian plane that was about to land in Bafut, northern zone of Ambazonia.
Cameroon separatists have claimed responsibility for shooting at a Cameroon airline passenger plane on Sunday as they approached the Bamenda airport.
In an outing over Africa Hour on VOA, Chris Anu wore the crime like a necklace as he pointed out that the aim was not to shoot it down. The aim, he said, was just to fire a warning shot to let La République du Cameroon know that flying planes over the airspace of Ambazonia was not acceptable.
The only flights we will accept over Ambazonian airspace are United Nations flights and any other flights that we would give permission to fly over our airspace.
At Ambazonia Calling, we cannot independently confirm that the IG group or any other force in Ambazonia at this time has the capability to take down any flying object other than a bird.
In the past, we have brought down some of their military helicopters.
Besides, inconsistencies in the government story only point to something stage-managed by the government with full intent of exploiting it for nefarious reasons, including the immediate announcement of a no-fly zone over Ambazonia.
It was a passenger plane which we did not intend to bring it down just because we knew it was loaded with innocent people.
At the very best, observers are not fooled by the fact that Cameroon is trying desperately to prevent any mission that will use air travel to bring assistance to Ambazonia or do the important work that UN humanitarian agencies have scheduled for Ambazonia.
So the humanitarian community is gradually scaling up with the capacity it needs. But yeah, so a small plane is landing in Manfetiko and Bamenda 3 times a week.
Such air travel will not only speed up the inevitable, it will give the international community unfettered aerial access of whole communities that La République du Cameroon has razed down to ashes.
But we would very much hope that it can be understood by the people in Bafut area that they would not shoot at our aircraft when they come to land, because our aircraft are humanitarian and coming for humanitarian purposes.
We don't want to hurt the United Nations. They are doing, especially the High Commission for Refugees, doing a marvelous job to our people. We don't want to be mistaken for terrorists because we are fighting a legitimate fight.
From BOYO in Ambazonia's northern zone to Ediki in the southern zone, La République du Cameroon terrorist genocidal forces are raining mayhem. On Saturday, December 7th, sources in BOYO report the shooting killing of at least 3 unarmed civilians, including a man suffering from leprosy in Bingo, which is predominantly a medical district and known to be home to the largest leprosy center in Ambazonia. Video also surfaced from BOYO Saturday afternoon showing several homes ablaze, the work of the BIA genocidal forces. Women wailing in the neighborhood of Bamenda upon discovering the mortal remains of 3 young men summarily executed by colonial Cameroon terrorist forces. According to the families of the slain young men, their neighbors and eyewitnesses, Cameroon occupation forces perpetrated the retributive mass slaughters at dawn last Tuesday morning, dragging out from their homes and executing 6 young men in all in a neighborhood in the vicinity of the Bafut airport where the CAMERCO flight came under fire last Sunday. Not satisfied with slaughtering Ambazonians, BIA colonial forces continue their economic and financial sabotage of Ambazonia. This week, in the town of Ediki in Ambazonia's southern zone, La République du Cameroon soldiers launched a new operation to ruin the town's small motorbike business sector.
Now boy own this. Now another one this too. Now I own that.
Social media postings show motorbikes that La République apparently found guilty and executed by shooting 4 bullets into each motorcycle.
Now suppose you own this. Now the place is the bullet down. And number 5 machine the burner for you. See the whole place bullet. Now so I need to this side. I'm by only I play the shooter.
The bullets were clearly aimed at doing irreparable damage to the bikes by drilling holes through the engine, the gas tank, and other vital body parts of the bikes. Idiki residents abandoned and fled into nearby bushes as the occupation forces approached their town. However, nearby homes and shops were ransacked and looted. Luggage abandoned in flight by passengers at Idiki Park were looted or carted away by the assassins and robbers in uniform.
All passengers are back. Hey.
Homes were riddled with bullet holes. When quiet returned to the town and town dwellers returned, they were mad about the trail of plunder the occupation forces left, but happy that they were lucky enough to escape death by summary execution had the terrorists found them in the town.
Man for die today, they play. Oh. Hey, now God today. Oh. See how war the chakara today.
In the face of a sharp increase in incidents of betrayal by enablers, more Ambazonians are predicting doom for those Ambazonians who behave like they would like to fight a war against their own people.
I am saying, and I'm repeating, that no political party is going to survive having the wrong electorates in the Northwest and Southwest. I am saying that no elections will be credible in this country if credible elections will not take place in the Northwest and Southwest. I am saying that this country will not have peace if peace does not return in the Northwest and Southwest region. I am saying that the youth in the other parts of the country will soon get up if the problem in the Northwest and South region is not resolved. I am saying that most of you will go to the polls in the opposition parties are going to lose the election to the CPDM if the problem in the North and Southwest is not solved. I am saying that all of you who are going in as opposition parties, you are going to accompany the CPDM and play the gallery, and nature and future and posterity will catch up with you people.
On Friday, there was random shooting and burning of houses in Bengui, MOMO State, northern zone of Ambazonia, just as Ambazonians in Bamendankwe village, outskirts of Bamenda in the northern zone, outraged over the shooting and destruction of the major local health clinic in Katawampos.
Where are you?
I'm in Bambili near the Fon's Palace.
What happened?
And in Bambui, another outskirt of Bamenda in the northern zone, reports say Cameroon colonial military were looting houses and burning some in Bambui.
The military have just entered into our house. They have break all the 4 doors. They have taken all the eggs that they were on top of the fridge. They took my phone, took all my SIM card, took all the money that they gave me for food. Then for 400.
How much was it?
The 400,000 that was on top of the bed, they took it all.
An eyewitness says they personally saw the thieving soldiers loading food items collected from as many as 9 houses and did victory dances for each home where the owners have fled for safety.
Okay, Cameroon military came and they came back to steal.
Yes, even the meat that was in the fridge, they have taken it off.
They remove it. They are thieves. La Republics are thieves.
The plantains that I cook in the pot, the ripe plantain, they asked me to fry some of the eggs and give them. I fried them and gave them. They ate it with it, even the pan.
Country people, make una year, military, not thief people, hungry people, they know the chop.
In Jinkajem, around Okwinbui State, northern zone, wearing a CPDM t-shirt was not enough to spare the life of a traditional ruler who was shot and killed by Biya occupation forces of La République du Cameroon. Chief Fai Dichangong was shot in his chiefdom in Jinkajem State, northern zone of Ambazonia. There are reports that Biya genocidal forces have been spotted here and there, reportedly cleaning up and rebuilding some communities in Ambazonia. While this brazen piece of propaganda is making the rounds of Ambazonia's social media platforms, Ambazonians are roundly rejecting the pack of lies that first house slave Dion Gute is fabricating in his attempt to secure grants from the international community. Cameroon is desperate for free money, cash-strapped and unable to pay even for the completion of the Paul Biya Stadium that has been under construction by an Italian outfit that has since suspended work.
Il est temps d'accorder à nos frères anglophones leur dignité.
Ambazonians are applauding revulsion in a tweet a Thursday 5th by Dr. Joyce Ashutantang, indigenous Ambazonian poet, actress, creative writer, and associate professor of English at the University of Hartford, Connecticut. The tweet handle, Dr. Joyce Ash, writes, I was never Anglophone.
Nos frères anglophones ont subi comme nous.
I was born from hashtag Southern Cameroon or hashtag West Cameroon. You forced Anglophone on me. I accepted it as a woman accepts a scar from a C-section. It carried my history and some of my ID. Now it is no-so.
Pour le problème du nozo.
When did this happen?
Le nozo.
You will not define me anymore.
Sur le nozo.
Gosh! End quote.
Les anglophones ont trop avalé comme contrainte.
You are listening to Ambazonia Calling, your space for educated news analysis, informed opinions and commentary towards the recognition of a free, independent Ambazonia. I am Innocent Chia. Stay with us.
Still ahead in this edition, we have The Devil Unmasked with Professor Emmanuel Tatamenta. We have a winner of the Nyamfuka of the Week. And we are not done until you have heard our letter to Joshua. So stay tuned, kick back, relax, and enjoy Ambazonia Calling. In that first part of the news wrap-up, there was mention of the UN humanitarian planes servicing Tiko, Mamfe, and Bamenda airports. That is part of a scaling up of humanitarian assistance that's ongoing in Ambazonia at this moment under the United Nations. And it is part of the reason why La République organized the shooting of the passenger plane at Bafut Airport in the hope that they could stop what is really 3 flights a week to Tiko, Mamfe, and Bamenda. They want to halt this. But why am I talking about it? Here is a UN official in humanitarian assistance whom we're going to listen to later in this program. But here he is addressing just the issue of the UN planes and protection for those planes.
The UN plane landed in Tiko. Is that confirmed?
Yeah, so it's connecting Tiko, Bamenda, and Mamfe, because there's now humanitarian actors in Mamfe that are living there and have offices, etc. So the humanitarian community is gradually scaling up with the capacity it needs. But yeah, so a small plane is landing in Mamfe, Tiko, and Bamenda 3 times a week. But yeah, we're a bit worried about it because the Camerco flight was shot in Bafut, in Bamenda Airport. We are not Camerco. We're very far from it. But we would very much hope that it can be understood by the people in Bafut area that they would not shoot at our aircraft when they come to land, because our aircraft are humanitarian, are coming for humanitarian purposes.
That is exactly my concern. Let us be in constant communication, because if we don't keep in this communication, there is no way we can avoid. We don't want to hurt the United Nations. They are doing. Especially the High Commission for Refugees, doing a marvelous job to our people. We don't want to be mistaken for terrorists, because we are fighting a legitimate fight. Our people have the right. They have cried for too long, and these things getting to this extent because the United Nations has given a deaf ear, and they keep sending delegates that will only go and meet Mr. Biya and take gold status.
You've underscored again the importance of communication. We are not doing it enough, and I think it's not just us. OCHA, I think there's a role to be played by the other organizations too, and we'll be communicating on that to see, to work out the way that we can feel comfortable saying the plane can come to land.
What we want to avoid here is be able to distance ourselves from acts that we are not responsible, because French Cameroon is another devil, the biggest devil on planet Earth, that will go to any length to sabotage or incriminate people who are out there fighting for freedom. So we want to be very, very considerate, so that if something happens, we can hold ourselves responsible. If it means we have to hold ourselves responsible. which means communication is going to be key factor in all of this.
Absolutely. No, please. And I think I'm certainly conscious that I'm not doing it enough. But I think, for us to have a more regular dialogue is very important. Yeah. But I think let's keep talking.
On the microphone there, Ambazonia's Fombat from out of London, speaking with a senior official in humanitarian assistance in Ambazonia.
Show me the love for once and now and ever. Show me the love for once and now and ever. Show me the love for once and now and ever. Where is the genuine love as a true friend and brother? Those who fight for freedom and run away shall live to fight another day, says Bob Marley, my big brother.
Bobe Innocentia is back. He's got the second part of our news wrap-up for the week.
The haze is beginning to clear up on a Facebook posting by Abdul Karim Ali. In the posting Saturday, the Muslim scholar of the Bible, most recent consequential Ambazonian prison graduate from colonial Cameroon and unrepentant pro-independentist, wrote, quote, "I challenge the South African team to debunk my clarification. You put my life at risk and come back with arrogance and pride?" End quote. Sources say Abdul Karim was reacting to a poster falsely purporting that he would be doing a joint appearance in South Africa alongside Yerima and Mark Barretta. He put out a note debunking that he'd ever given his green light to attend. Milton Taka, a former official of the Ambazonian leadership structure in South Africa, clarified early Sunday morning that the miscommunication had been ironed out. Reactions are far from what Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako may have expected after he secured recognition from a local city council in Sao Paulo, Brazil. An outpouring of damnation and ridicule littered social media after footage was released of Dr. Sako addressing a scanty room of officials at the city of Barueri, Sao Paulo, Brazil. What the Sako IG faction would have wanted to let out was the fact that the city of Barueri, Sao Paulo, unanimously voted to approve and recognize the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Many voices cried out for the Sako IG to take their responsibilities seriously, especially at a critical time when colonial Cameroon is under immense international pressure and the wheels are falling off the bus. Speculation and uncertainty are overflowing over the meaning of pictures that surfaced midweek marking the centennial of the United Nations Organization State of Cameroon, November 1919 to present date November 2019. According to information gleaned from the pictures, the November 28th United Nations-sponsored event centered on a workshop regarding the former British Trust Territory of the United Nations Organization State of Cameroon. Some sources have maintained for quite some time that United Nations has been working quietly to right the wrongs of the past with regards to British Northern Cameroons and British Southern Cameroons. Believers say the desired outcome could be the forming of a new state that includes both former British Northern Cameroons and British Southern Cameroons. We will continue to watch this developing story.
No man will disturb we. Now we decide our land. No.
Ambazonian restoration forces are promising the grandmother of all ghost town operations and lockdowns.
And the worst sickam.
One of the Meme-based self-defense units, calling itself the 30-man squad, announced a different day for the start of the lockdown this week.
On 1st February, they go hear we.
Suggesting that it expects action to begin on the 1st of February 2020, which would be days into the 2-week campaigns for the twin local and legislative elections called by colonial Cameroon.
All for one. One for all. One for all. All for one. No retreat. No surrender. Forward ever. Forward never. Block by block. Never move by never moves. That one day.
The 30-man squad regurgitates some of the slogans we have already heard from other better-known units. During the week, they barricaded roads and chanted war songs behind the barricades, sending word out to rivals. One has to presume that it plans to be the first force to take and hold BOYO.
Some people, they don't whisper how the contender force is dead.
The contender force is apparently very much alive.
But the contender force is alive.
And doing very well, according to Tapang Ivo, who happens to also be the spokesperson of the ADF, the lead group within that force.
The good job done by the ADF and the contender force. It was not easy for us to supply these guns to the sword of Ambazonia. When I don't see photos, when I don't see videos.
Speaking on Rebel TV, a Facebook-hosted outfit, Tapang bragged about the big sums of money the contender force has apparently racked in.
We raised about $31,000 in just 1 week. And throughout that period, a lot of money don't come in. I don't know exactly how much because I know be part of the Contender Force Financial Committee. But I be aware of the funds we don't enter inside the coffers as it don't translate to the guns.
One would expect him to announce the delivery of a big consignment of weapons to Ground Zero. Instead, Tapang used his outing to confirm that the contender forces received 5 AK-47s, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 only.
Another 2 sets of AK with the GAM again altogether make about 5 AK-47s with the GAM for General Bell and the sword of Ambazonia. And also, when I remember, I said they also give them bullets. So the ADF, the supply, while some other people are stealing from the ADF.
The most important piece of information coming out of Tapang's mouth this week was to convey a message from the ADF that it is ready to collaborate with other self-defense groups on Ground Zero, even if it remains flippant about wanting to take anyone opposed to them out.
But we will block all the roads for those where they don't come for can thief for the ADF. And we open the roads for those where they want to collaborate with the ADF.
Meantime, the godfather of the national AK-47 campaign, Pache,
I'm the guys on the ground make we get this independence now,
took to social media this week again to claim that diplomacy is of no use to the liberation of Ambazonia.
The world no they listen to anybody out of pity. It listen now for people where they get arms. Now only one way out. I'm the boys on the ground. No other solution, no day.
According to Pache, only bullets and guns matter.
The world they fear America now because America get arms. If it fall for your skin like rain. I'm the guys on the ground and the world go listen. I'm the guys on the ground and the world will talk to us.
It takes one-track mind to close out diplomacy as offering anything.
My name na Pache, and I stand for support the arming of the guys on the ground.
Barrister Julius Achu, the lawyer who failed woefully in his regime-sponsored effort to drag teachers and bishops of the Catholic Church to court, put more of his stupidity on display on a national television set this week.
Barrister, the US behind what is going on.
That's a heavy point.
Yes.
Interviewed on Equinox TV, Barrister Julius Achu, and one wonders if he should be called Barrister or just Julius Achu, reasserted his accusation that the government of the United States is the hidden hand behind the Ambazonian revolution.
Where do you think that it's the guns that they are using which will make things work? It is because the U.S. is behind. I will not hide it. The U.S. is behind what is going on.
Finally, in foreign sports news,
le Cameroun défaillant en 2019, défaillant en 2021, c'est une hypothèse aujourd'hui?
C'est une hypothèse, ça n'est pas complètement exclu.
Algeria is warming up to the idea of seeing colonial Cameroon disqualified anew to host the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations.
Ça ne va pas plaire forcément aux Camerounais que l'on dise ça.
Radio France Internationale aired a segment in the course of the week mocking la République du Cameroun for incompetence.
On a l'impression que tout s'est arrêté au Cameroun. Tous les travaux, tout ce qui n'était pas prêt pour l'organiser en 2019.
According to the French broadcaster, the Confederation of African Football, which organizes the tournament every 2 years, is deeply concerned that colonial Cameroon will not be ready again and has secretly asked Algeria to indicate its availability to host the tournament.
Ce qui est étonnant, c'est que quand même le ministre algérien des Sports précise qu'il répond là à une requête de la CAF qui a sondé l'Algérie en coulisses. Bien entendu, il n'y a aucun communiqué de la Confédération africaine de foot.
Another country has been knocking at the door, asking to host the tournament is Côte d'Ivoire, whose turn to host was initially supposed to be in 2021, but got pushed back to make room for a disgraced colonial Cameroon. Innocent Chia, Ambazonia Calling.
Something is killing me slowly, and I'm feeling so lonely. But this thing I must to talk, oh. Yeah. All my people, they for bush, oh. And our children are they go for school, oh. But nobody fit to talk, oh. We get to plenty, so many things where we really want to complain to you. See these people where they kill us, not the people where they get for protect me, yeah. Our children, they for prison. Our leaders, they for prison. Now they calling for dialogue. Now who and who go talk, oh. That's why we pray to God. Heal our land, heal our land, heal our land. Cause all our people are dying, and our mothers are crying. Heal our land, heal our land, heal our land. Cause all our children are dying, and our mothers are crying.
Many of those who were opposed to Switzerland being in charge of mediation between Ambazonia and La République du Cameroun pointed to Germany and to Canada as possible substitute, and the claim was they are clean, they are impeccable, they have no business with La République du Cameroun. Well, on Saturday, the Globe and Mail broke a story on Canada's dirty, corrupt practices in La République du Cameroun, and that dirty business is being done at the expense of Ambazonian lives. Here is the monk from Ibali Kumato, Vedzikov himself.
Little known until now, but now put on public display by an article published Saturday in the Globe and Mail. Canada, we learn from it, has been using its Canada-Cameroon Center based in Yaoundé to prop up the kleptocratic regime of Mr. Biya at the expense of Ambazonian lives and sovereignty. Every Ambazonian should read that article written by University of Calgary professor Chris Roberts. That article uses a $126 million government-to-government contract between Cameroon and Canada to refurbish the Douala so-called reunification stadium as a hook to show the extent to which the Canadian government is in over its head with the dictatorship of Paul Biya being Vondor. The so-called Canadian firm known as McGill Construction and based in Montreal is in fact and essentially a French firm because it was acquired by French engineering giant Fayol and did not have an international division until 2017. Aware of the shortcoming of such a newcomer to international business, the Canadians secured the contract by essentially preventing public bids and by providing Canadian government funding. I am talking corruption here at a very high level. Two Canadian firms then provided multilateral loan and political risk guarantees to McGill Construction as revenue for the Cameroon-Canada Center skyrocketed from $5.1 million prior to the contract to $73 million. The French say, l'appétit vient en mangeant. So it is for the Canadians as well. According to the Globe and Mail, Canada has now signed a deal to take over the refurbishing of the Yaoundé-Olembe Stadium. They have signed an air transportation deal with Yaoundé that will include direct flights between the two countries and involve code sharing. They have supplied aircraft equipment, sensitive security-related equipment that Franco-Cameroon is using to slaughter Ambazonians from helicopter gunships. Bell helicopters used by Cameroon's Beer Killer Squad and the Cessna Caravan surveillance aircraft are using Canada-supplied high-tech surveillance equipment to track and slaughter Ambazonians. Canada is negotiating another government-to-government, free of public bidding corrupt deal with colonial Cameroon at this very moment, even as it used funds from its Sahel Peace Initiative to support negotiations under the auspices of Switzerland to bring together colonial Cameroon and Ambazonia. This is the rotten, smelly, stinking world of corruption in which we live, and in which Ambazonia must prepare to fight until our people win the dignity, freedom, and sovereignty they deserve, and not even Canada's corruption can prevent them from having. This is the monk from Ibalikumato for Ambazonia Calling.
The thing depend me, the thing depend me, the thing they touch me, and the thing they worry me. As I see my them, they cry so badly. Kule ya mami them, atongani kongongo. Say my sila, sabenikela. Wiratira ki ukafi Kibir be say me jakirio. No divide your brother, no divide your brother. If we live like one family, we go conquer tomorrow. No divide your brother, no divide your brother. If we live like one family, we go conquer tomorrow. Cause I believe in unity, cause I believe in unity. If we live like one family, we go conquer tomorrow.
When Ambazonian liberation movements gave a mandate to the government of Switzerland, very many of our people said, they are not neutral, they are not independent, they cannot be trusted as a mediator. We would much rather have a very independent mediator. As a matter of fact, there is no independent mediator. Here is the monk from Ibalikumato.
One of our jingles here at Ambazonia Calling is warning to all Ambazonians to stop dreaming that somehow someone will find us a perfectly neutral country. One that has zero economic, trade, or financial interests in the Cameroons to play the role of mediator.
Our destiny is in our hands, not in the hands of the mediator.
The perfection of God Almighty Himself, as we have kept saying, only exists in fiction. Every country we find, every nation that invites us to mediation, that intervenes in the Ambazonian problem, will have interests they are guarding against or promoting.
Our job is to ensure that the negotiations work for what we seek, and that our leaders and negotiating team do not sign onto any deal that falls short of outright independence for our homeland.
This is the monk from Ibalikumato for Ambazonia Calling.
The masses are crying. Okada men, you say there is no problem. Molestation, repression, suppression, assimilation. You say there is no problem, brother.
We're coming back to Vezekov. It's got the last part of our story here on mediation and corruption. Let's talk about what else is happening to other actors, beginning with, for instance, the United States.
We have known the high-profile American training of technical support to and funding of the beer killer squads, known as BEER. To America's credit, they have publicly slammed the BEER regime for rights violations, have terminated certain aspects of military support, and more recently announced it will kick colonial Cameroon out of the African Growth and Opportunity Act. Those who, upon hearing that the Swiss were involved with mediation, clamored that they would much prefer the Germans or the Canadians were involved. They wanted Ambazonians to believe that somehow these countries are holier than Switzerland. They are not. Germany is as heavily involved with the same practices as Switzerland, which has trade and financial deals it is also promoting with colonial Cameroon. We have heard of the Swiss being involved to protect Swiss interests in the cocoa sector and in the port of Douala. This is the monk from Ibalikumato for Ambazonia Calling.
Give me signal. They didn't enter me for body. For Ambazonia, I don't come again. Give up.
Let me land. I'm on my feet. I'm a representative of the people. Could you allow me land, sir? You are a senator like me. Let me land. I'm living from a region. Let me share my difficulties with you. I'm not living a normal life of a senator in my region. I'm internally displaced. Living is a privilege. And to die is a rule in the Northwest and Southwest region. That's why we are all becoming internally displaced. He says to the military, il faut continuer avec le ratissage. That ratissage means destroy everything to the ground level. That's why you have destruction of bodies. Il faut continuer avec le ratissage. We have a situation in Noni where people dug a grave. And they were asked to enter into it, and they were shot dead and buried inside a grave. A whole village in Bamukumbi, Balikuma subdivision, has been razed down. Balikumbat, where I come from, a quarter was swept by fire, and somebody escaping from fire was shot and thrown into the fire. A whole quarter was brought down. I wrote complaint about the military, and I was told that if they don't investigate, what will I do? In Batu, after killing a lady, a landmine was placed under the corpse. And when the family came to take the corpse for burial, it exploded, killing more and wounding others. That's the situation we are living in the Northwest region, and it is important for me to let my colleague senators understand. Very important.
Amango today inside pay, you know the free. We president on the side say all man of yay. Grand ambition, fuck that slogan, no yay. Presido, the pay jaga jaga. Una take all till the we for scatter. They need 102 students for send address. Una select 2 Anglo-Bos, escape address. Bia, young, region, prison. Escape uno why man show BBC they for prison. They don't some all we then start for colors Anglo-Bos. Fuck up the government, we ain't tools. Minister for Communication, no fit talk good English. Southern Cameroon independence, that's my wish. No good third roads, no seaports, no light, no water, no airports. President, you overget fake promises. Wait to happen, failing us, you bring us diseases. But men are the cry, we are the ask why. You don't go for that chair, you don't go shake, you go die.
Women are the crying, we are the crying.
On the other side of the jingle introducing the Devil Unmasked, we will welcome a top official who is involved with United Nations humanitarian assistance in Ambazonia. Welcome to our special interview segment, The Devil Unmasked, The Truth Out. In The Devil Unmasked today, our comrade Herbert from out of London speaks with a senior official in charge of humanitarian assistance. The official explains and clarifies in great detail why the United Nations and the humanitarian relief workers have been supporting our people in obtaining identity cards. Now, there's heightened tension, of course, because of the elections and calls for boycott of the election, but the humanitarian officer insists that this is an issue of protection.
It has come to our notice that humanitarian workers are moving around, making ID cards for our people.
The ID card is what's used by the government security forces as the check in order to pass through checkpoints. So if people don't have an ID card, they can't move and they can't access medical services or indeed go visit their families and do other normal things. And then similarly, I think there's also some social services that can't be accessed either without it. So effectively, without an ID card, somebody is stateless. But yeah, effectively, it's been come back and been discussed with us a number of times that, this is with the accusation, this is not a neutral activity. And I can certainly see why that perspective is held. I think the humanitarian position on this is that if the access to these services or indeed freedom of movement can only come with this, then it's critical, it's kind of life-saving. Then a humanitarian intervention to get a person an ID card is reasonable. The government's policy of insisting on ID cards going through checkpoints is something that should be, challenged. And the question is it, if it was challenged, would that be something that could succeed? People need identification. We know that many people are, Cameroon passports are being used, by many people who do not want to be a citizen of Cameroon, but they need identification in order to move. So it's kind of this position of, pragmatism.
We will be right back with The Devil Unmasked.
In other place.
Hello, stop looking around. There's only one show out there. It's called Ambazonia Calling.
If I could just ask one question. This is United Nations High Commission for Refugees. What I don't understand is, must you do the Cameroon ID card, or doesn't the United Nations has a card that is acceptable in situations like this for people to move from one location to the other? Because when we come to these ID cards in Cameroon, elections are coming, and we know the fraudulent nature or the fraudulent attitude of the government.
Yeah, no, indeed, and the person that was killed for doing humanitarian work in DONGA-MANTUNG seems to have been killed for collecting different types of information. They were doing a multi-sectoral needs assessment, and this is exactly the need to better communicate what it is that we're doing, and I think that's something that UNHCR has been called upon to do, to better explain its programs, and we're going to be working with them on that. And I think this involves a conversation with the various leaders in the diaspora. So the concerns have been recognized. My understanding is that the program has been postponed while these concerns are reviewed and addressed. That's where we are, and I think that with the elections coming up, the heightened tensions, it means particularly that we're dealing with traumatized populations here, and their fears and suspicions are well founded. And what we need to do is to support them to distinguish between what we're doing for our for humanitarian purposes and what's going on for other purposes over which we have little or no control. And I think there's a concern about both doing the multi-sectoral needs assessment and any work on civil documentation until after this period is passed. Where people are asking me, are the elections going to go ahead? What's happening? Will they happen in Northwest, Southwest? And this isn't. We are not the key influencer in this regard, and I think we're fairly powerless. So what we can do is a number of things. We can reinforce our communication so people are clear who we are and what we're doing. Because there's no point sending people out to do something if people don't want it, and it endangers both the people that don't want it and the people that are doing it. So they're basically going through a period of reflection on what is the best way to address this issue.
I know what you're saying, but my concern is the UN should issue cards for people to move around. Our people don't want anything that would tie them, any links with this government called Cameroon. Get the United Nations to issue cards that our people can move around, and those cards should be acceptable. We don't want situations where you will legitimize French Cameroon elections that are banned in our territory.
Yep, no, and well received. And so this isn't, you're not the first person to raise this with us. And like I said, there's going through a period of reflection and also a period of engagement with, the diaspora structures and the commanders on the ground to say, well, okay, yes, these concerns have been heard. The programming is being postponed, until the revisions towards an acceptable accommodation have been made. But yes, I think the situations in other countries where the UN does issue ID cards, I think this comes from Security Council decisions. And I think if we recall that the Security Council, apart from that meeting in May, where enough members said they didn't want to intervene, we are not the power here in this situation in the way that I think the way that's being suggested, in terms of peacekeeping, etc., which again would come from a Security Council decision. The limitations of the humanitarian structures to do something, and then for them to take a pragmatic approach, and indeed to offer, the opportunity for people who want their ID cards, that to be made available. But I can certainly see what you're saying in terms of the concerns raised. Because, ID cards, we know the ID cards have the flags cut off, because people don't want to identify with. But then the security forces are abusive to those that have their flags cut off their ID cards. And similarly, armed group members who are also looking at people's ID cards are known to challenge, why people still have the flag on it. So we know how controversial this is, and I think this kind of last resort approach, there's no other way these people can move, and they need to move. This is what's done. Whereas, it's a kind of that versus the principle of neutrality, which I think your point is reasonable. The types of things you're recommending are decisions that can't be taken by the humanitarian community. They need to be taken at the political level of the UN.
The ID card issue, our people on the ground don't want it to continue. The restoration forces don't even want to see the ID cards. We should stop doing anything that French Cameroon will use it as an opportunity, as a window to smuggle in or manipulate and use it to their advantage. Because they know that if they go out there asking our people to come make ID cards, nobody will turn up. So they're using the humanitarian workers to go in there, convince our people and make them ID cards with the notion that they could come collect aids or they could move around. If your organization is encouraging our people, what happens is you make more victims than even helping the situation. So I will plead with you, if it is on your agenda, put it on hold and communicate to all humanitarian sectors in southern Cameroon. We have said anything French Cameroon in Ambazonia is banned, and we mean business.
No, it's well received. If what we're seeing on the ground level is, increased tensions, increased violence, then of course we're not going to do programming that increases things and creates more victims.
Anything French Cameroon is a cancer. It's a cancer to us.
So that's well understood. You know, if you need a passport to move internationally, and if you're not in a place which is going to offer you citizenship and give you a new passport, and your old passport runs out, what do you do? Because you're in a similar dilemma to the people in in Mayuka, for example, if they want to come to BOYO. The question is, what is our role in that? So if we can empathize with one situation, but like I said, this is a theoretical discussion right now because we're not doing this. But I think what will happen, and probably not until after the elections, this issue, the issue of access of people to services, the issue of people not being able to move without ID cards remains a fundamental protection issue in this crisis.
I think I would differ a little bit with you. People do not need to move on to come see where they can get humanitarian support. NGOs can move to the nearest localities where our people can come meet them.
If they need to get complex medical care, they need to move. Now, hopefully, that I think but we're seeing ambulances interfered with. Like this is a very serious issue. And I agree with you that the solution being offered it shouldn't be viewed as the only one. Like I say, if somebody is sick and needs to get to a better hospital and they can't move because they don't have an ID card, this is a problem. But I agree with you, like giving ID cards is not the solution. It is something that can be done in the short term that can help these people, the people that are sick and need to move. I think this is the thing. I understand the point you made, and it's already, it's already on hold. But I think then they need to review, because the issue of people not being able to move, the restrictions on movement by the security forces are a key protection issue.
If they find it necessary that our people need to move to get to better hospital, if they cannot create those hospital facilities around that locality, then they should be able to supply cards that can grant our people movement. So I will plead with you again, the ID card issue or process, it should be on hold, please.
Yeah, well, like I say, it is. So, I think I was just advocate that people should be able to move. It's very straightforward. It's about liberty. Okay, but no, we're clear on that.
Ambazonia Calling. You are in the heart of the news shrine. Call us the Kalakuta Republic of commentary, opinion, and editorials.
This is Ambazonia Calling.
Here is someone who does not need any introduction in the Ambazonian Revolution, Ebenezer Akwanga. Along with his African People's Liberation Movement, Ebenezer Akwanga has been a champion in supporting our people to learn, respect, and train trainers in international humanitarian law, including some of our commanders on Ground Zero. And Comrade Akwanga is not pleased with what is happening with attacks on humanitarian workers. Here now are excerpts from a Facebook appearance that he made in the course of the week.
It is just a few days ago that Pascal Ngwani, a former seminarian, a young aid worker, who was picked up by a group which we are still struggling to identify. And the group leader picked up his phone call, announced that they were holding him, only for his lifeless body to be discovered by the roadside by the parish priest the next morning. A humanitarian worker, you claim that you are holding him. He's not armed. And then he is found dead by the roadside. Some of you people have not collected money from La République du Cameroon, but you are doing their job. They slaughtered Ayafo, and some of you were online trying to justify it. A few seconds of grandeur can become 100 years of backwardness in this struggle. We who are seeking external self-determination cannot do it on our own without the world putting their hands on our back. It is our duty to emphasize that we must, on ground zero respect every humanitarian organization. Because without these humanitarian organizations, our death toll would have skyrocketed. They did not declare this war upon us. Mr. Bia did. You and me did not invite them to come to our aid. They are doing their own part of the job. And they must not become targets. You gain nothing as a restoration force or as a leader of a restoration force or as an Ambazonian to send any boy or girl to target the ICRC convoy, to target any humanitarian organization, to seize their cars, to take food items which are meant to help our people who are already dying in the bushes. Every restoration force on ground zero must adhere to international humanitarian law. No war is good. Every war is evil. But yes, there are some wars you need to fight. If we did not raise up ourselves and defend our homeland, we would have been committing suicide or letting our people to be butchered. It is our right to defend ourselves. Some wars become necessary good wars because you fight them for the greater good. If we want this liberation war to be fought for the greater good, we must not be like them. We must not promote, invite, encourage these young men and women who are taking the brunt of this fight, these valiant combatants, these great fighters, young men and women who do not go to any military school or training, but are able to keep this struggle alive. We should not be the one who will send them to their butchery. Why do we call ourselves self-defense rather than a military, rather than an army? It is because we are not out to conquer. We are out to liberate our homeland. We are out to have a place called home. We are not out to do the same thing that has been done to us for close to 60 years. No, we cannot be seeking for freedom from a people that we hold responsible for the carnage they have brought in our own land. And some of us intend to do the same thing these people have done and even worse. We should not create avenues that when freedom will come, their own freedom will end up. Because justice, I can assure you, is going to come. And justice is going to catch some of us, whether we like it or not. I am asking the international community that you do not need this war to end before you put an end to impunity. Those who are responsible on both sides of this war must be held accountable beginning now. Because if you do not put an end to this, if some people don't begin to face justice, they would think that there are no rules of engagement even at war times. No, there is. There are rules and regulations involved in war times, even though war itself is evil. We cannot go about doing things that will come to haunt us tomorrow. If we turn young men and women to become savages, what type of state are we going to build? We will create a South Sudan. The rest of the world is not against external self-determination. The world is afraid of the failure in South Sudan. And what some of you leaders are doing is giving credence to this fear. For things we don't need to quarrel over, we quarrel over them. We have become so intelligent until now we are now stupid. We cannot turn our targets to humanitarian workers. We have become so suspicious that even our shadow, we are scared of it. We must stop this. The only way we will obtain what we want is to sit on the negotiating table, because history is on our side. Legitimacy is on our side. So far, morality is on our side. Geography is on our side because we have the international boundary treaties. So we cannot be scared to negotiate. You will never be able to conquer us through arms. It will never happen. Those who think they can use their mouth and say anything, anytime, anyhow, because they have a phone or they have a medium to express whatever they want to say without looking at how negative it could impact this struggle, should know that justice is coming to them. I am not frightening you. You will have nowhere to hide. Justice is coming. Because if this impunity is allowed, either from us, Ambazonians, or from La République du Cameroon, then those who have died would have died in vain. You cannot go around and tell anyone to play into the hands of Atanga G boys by targeting humanitarian workers. That is a no-go zone. Justice must catch up to you before you mess up the struggle of the people of the former British Southern Cameroons. Because if justice doesn't catch up to some of you, we will never see Ambazonia as a free land. We will touch the flag. We will sing the anthem. We will dream of a homeland. We will aspire for it. We will hope for it. But we might never ever be able to touch it. Not because of the bestiality of the annexationist La République du Cameroon and its proconsuls, but because of stupidity, callousness, hypocrisy, and absolute madness from our own camp. This is your humble servant, Ebenezer Derek Mbongo Akwanga.
Please don't go anywhere. We will be right back with Ambazonia Calling.
This is a lesson that every Ambazonian should know by heart from real politics. The world won't roll over just to please the hard to satisfy in the ranks of our people. Those who choose to be spoilers will be free to do as they please.
I recognize the fact that even those I consider to be egoistic or to be selfish, I recognize the fact that the intent is good. People simply think I have the best route to Boya, I have the shortest way, the easiest way. I recognize all that.
The search for a completely neutral country will never be successful because there is no such thing as a perfectly neutral country to serve as mediator.
Very few women in the Ambazonian restoration movement have a voice like the Princess Harriet Fominki. She's pretty well known to everyone, and this week she had one of those audio messages out, one of the ones in which she called quite a number of names. Ambazonia Calling took a hard look at the message and decided we wanted to extract the excerpts that speak to the need for all of us to work to limit the lives that are lost on Ground Zero. Here's Princess Harriet.
Yes, Ground Zero lives matter. The lives of our people being slaughtered on Ground Zero matter a lot. Therefore, every action that each and every one of us takes should focus on how do we minimize the loss of lives. How do we bring the loss of lives of our people to zero? Because every single day, so many of our people are being slaughtered. And we have a responsibility to do something about it, to stop it. Meaning we have to be extremely selfless. We have to put our people first, and our egos, our pride, and our whatever you want to call it, very far from the lives of our people. Anybody who is confused should know it. Get this line, underline this. Southern Cameroons is going to be free. We must be free. There is no negotiation about that. We must be free. Yes, because we allow ourselves to be deceived by a handful of people over and over. It has definitely delayed us. It will delay us some more, but we will be free. The earlier we stand up and hug and kiss and love the uncomfortable truth and do the right thing and stop personality worshiping, because there are so many people that worship individuals, worship groups. That is the worst thing that is happening to our revolution. This is our revolution. This is the people's revolution. Please, please, let us stop all forms of idol worshiping. Let us stop all forms of hate, especially on Ground Zero. Please do not allow the people in the diaspora to influence your thinking, to influence how you react towards your fellow brothers and sisters. Because if you kill your fellow brother or sister, you have simply weakened yourself. Stand for the truth and nothing but the truth, because that is what will save us. Do not allow the manipulations from the diaspora to hit you on ground zero. I trust you. You are making a lot of progress on that. And please build the kind of relationship that you had in 2016, 2017, so that this journey can be very, very short for all of us. To the commanders, the heroes, the defenders of homeland, we can never thank you enough for what you do every day. We can never thank you enough for defending our people, for defending our integrity. May God continue to protect you, guide you, direct you, and bless us all with the freedom that we so much deserve. This is Princess Harriet.
Baby, my love for you, baby girl, I say with you, I'm just surprised. My love for you, girl, I know if take you out of sight. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh? I do anything. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh? Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh? Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh? I do for you. I do anything for you, eh? Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh?
Well, let me complete the round of these three people that I did not need to introduce at all. The third of them is Comrade Chris Anu. Everyone knows who he is, but this week he issued a stinking letter to Professor Maurice Kamto about meddling in Ambazonian affairs. Here's Comrade Chris Anu going after Maurice Kamto.
How can Kamto, a jurist, justify his cries against injustice and yet at the same time refuse to see the mountain of injustices done to the people of Ambazonia? How can he not hear the cries of those being murdered in cold blood, being burnt alive by Cameroon in an attempt to perpetuate a hypnotic and imaginary mission to tie Ambazonia to itself? Where did Cameroon's mission to occupy Ambazonia come from? Which God, which law, which logic gave Cameroon this sadistic and criminal mission? As a lawyer, he knows that the use of the word secession is just part of the fraud. It has no meaning in the circumstance. How can Kamto now call for the rule of law when he has witnessed countless acts of injustice against the people of Ambazonia and never called for the rule of law, even once? For 58 years, they have been trying to transfer the allegiance of Ambazonians from their own country, Ambazonia, to that of a foreign and alien country called La République du Cameroun. Who would tell Maurice Kamto that we too would not see an inch of our territory stolen by La République du Cameroun? Is Kamto, as a legal man, willing to submit the Ambazonian case to the International Court of Justice for a conclusive ruling? Is Kamto, as a Democrat, willing to accept and even propose a United Nations-sponsored referendum for the Ambazonian people as a final solution? Shouldn't Kamto kindly tell us on what date and by what instruments the territory of Ambazonia became part of La République du Cameroun? Or is all of his babbling on TV just public talk without proof? Does he intend to inherit and perpetuate the fraud against Ambazonia, while he himself fights the act of fraud done against him? The injustice and the fraud has always been that of Ambazonia to bear. Today, it is that of Kamto to experience. If Kamto's own pains cannot open his eyes to those of Ambazonians, which are 1,000 times more, then nothing will save La République du Cameroon. Could what is going on actually help this nation to reflect on its fraudulent past and repent, or the fraud has become its trademark and culture indeed? There can be no peace in that country, and no justice under illegal occupation and annexation. A diabolic war declared by Paul Biya against them for asking La République du Cameroun to respect the rule of law. Ambazonia will fight to the last man standing, no matter who is on the throne in French Cameroon. As believers in the rule of law, we wish Maurice Kamto to win his war against injustice, as we wish ourselves to win our own war against the injustices from French Cameroon. But this interlude, in which he has been served Cameroon standard practices, may help him and the rest of Cameroon review the devilish and precarious foundations on which their nation stands. I am Chris Anu.
Here we go. Drum roll, please. And welcome to our Nyamfoka of the Week segment. We don't do foolish, but when there are capital fools out there, we make it our duty to find them, and every week we crown one of them the Nyamfoka of the Week. It is that time on the program when we do a review of the kings and queens of foolish for the week. Here is Bobe Lambert-Mbom sitting in for Veronique Vetumfe.
Finishing in third place this week is Dr. G. Nubon, the newly elected leader of pro-Siseko Ambazonians based in South Africa.
We need to have our government sit on a specific structure that is representative from our communities right up to the kind of coordination mechanisms that we currently represent.
Spitting words at the speed of lightning.
Partners that can accompany us through the struggle up to this point with the hope that it will become our strategic partners forward. So,
Dr. G rolled out a 7-point action plan for Ambazonians in South Africa that accused Ambazonians in Maryland in the United States for organizing what he called a power grab.
Now that system was attacked in the course of the power grab, I should call it that way, that was orchestrated by our comrades that are coming out of Maryland.
Dr. G is so bent that he does not hesitate to turn to lies and revisionism. For example, he claims falsely that the country representatives in the Ambazonian Revolution were elected by the people.
Countries, House of Country, and reps and regional representatives. Now, that was representation that had essentially a democratic mandate. Democratic mandate in terms of the fact that the participants of that process were the result of grassroots participation in democratically determined elections.
Totally false, of course. Finishing in third place is Dr. G. Nubon, the Nyamfoka of the Week.
Nyamfoka them all.
In the position of runners-up this week is an activist who claims to be Sense Pass King.
At the time of FAKO, we forget about independence.
Running a no Connie corner.
Ambazonia is done.
But whose every outing broadcasts in his My Weekly podcast for Una is hotly partisan.
After all, the rappers get that hatred they had against Ayabachoso, like the Republic of Cameroon, they use those ones as a leverage for lure those people into their plan B where they get them from Ambazonia. And then what people then sheepishly they follow them.
Capo Daniel, also known as Bobengong, can see the extent to which he harms the Ambazonian restoration quest by seeing his video disseminated by My Country People Them.
All the sacrifices are gone for nothing.
Capo Daniel needs serious help.
When I feel a joke,
to be inviting Ambazonians to forget about independence.
When I don't forget about independence.
But his crybaby outing earned him disrepute and landed him in the position of this week's second-place finisher for the Crown of Shame, the Nyamfoka of the Week.
Nyamfoka them them all.
Finishing at the top of the charts and running away with the crown this week is Barrister Julius Achu.
Since 1961, why did they never use guns? Why do you think that it's the guns that they are using which will make things work?
The Douala-based so-called lawyer who serves as a slave lawyer on behalf of colonial Cameroon. This week, he went on television one more time to mess himself up. After failing to use legal terrorism to force teachers to call off strikes and school owners of the Christian churches in Ambazonia to ignore the boycott of schools, Barrister Julius Achu told spectators on Equinox TV that the government of the United States is the hidden hand behind the Ambazonian revolution.
It is because the U.S. is behind.
Secretly funding and encouraging it.
I will not hide it. The U.S. is behind what is going on.
Barrister, the U.S. behind what is going on.
That's a heavy point.
Prince. Yes.
For being so outrightly stupid and defamatory, Barrister Julius Achu is this week's winner of the crown of shame, the Nyamfuka of the week.
Nyamfuka them all.
This is Lambert Bomb for Veronique Vertimfe from Ambazonia Calling.
Cause all our children are dying, and our mothers are crying. Okay, let's take a minute of silence for our brothers and sisters who have lost their life in the struggle, and our mothers who are living in the bushes, our children suffering in the bushes with no food and no shelter. We pray that may peace return in our land so that we can live in peace forever. That's what we cry for. We get to so many things where we really want to complain to you. See these people where they kill us, not the people where they get for protect we. Yeah. Our children they for prison, our leaders they for prison, but they've been calling for dialogue. Now who and who got talk? That's why we pray to God. Heal our land, heal our land, heal our land. Cause all our people are dying, and our mothers are crying. Heal our land, heal our land, heal our land. Cause all our children are dying, and our mothers are crying. Say we get to plenty, so many things that we really won't complain to you, Daddy. Now who's how we go so? Mabaminda,
Ambazonia Calling. You are in the heart of the news shrine. Call us the Kalakuta Republic of Commentary, Opinion, and Editorials. Did I say I was ending with the third person that everyone knows? No, there's a fourth, David Makongo. David Makongo, as you know, is the one who brought us Cohen as the voice of Ambazonia, as the mediator potentially for Ambazonia from out of the United States. Everything was true if you listened to Makongo, except everything was false if you looked at the facts and if you listened to Cohen. This week, Comrade David Makongo lavished praise on Comrade Sako for the work he had done in Brazil. Here's Tanyi Jude Agua Ozugen saying, we have to put everything in perspective.
In a Facebook statement, David Makongo is lending wings to the recent diplomatic offensive by the Sako IG group. The man who gave Ambazonians the Cohen Gaff argues, no matter how small these international gains may look in the eyes of the beholder, these are the types of baby steps that finally turn a crawling child into a mature person and should therefore never be taken for granted. If we cannot appreciate small things, he adds, we can appreciate big ones. Coming from Makongo, this epistle comes loaded with an undeniable paradox. There is no one better suited to disabusing the notion of celebrating elusive gains than the man whose attempt at manipulation, or was it naivety, led him to trumpet what history books in Ambazonia shall title the Cohen hoax. Or might it be that this is Makongo's way of begging for forgiveness for Cohen disappointing himself as the voice of Ambazonia? It sure seems like Makongo selling snake oil. This is by no means an attempt to denigrate the Sako diplomatic win. Yet we must celebrate little steps like these and avoid the gross exaggerations. Is it worth celebrating? Of course. Little drops of water make an ocean. What is wrong is elevating drops of water to the same status as an ocean, raising the hopes of our people to sky-high levels for an initiative that is substantively inadequate for the kind of diplomatic win that will push Ambazonia forward is making mountains or molehills or claiming there is a storm in an Ambazonia teacup ferocious enough to sink the Titanic. By any measure, Sako's recent Brazil win is to be considered in the same category as the Basque Country diplomatic win sold by Egg of Sea as our way to statehood. It is in line with the City of Lowe's win sold by Sisiko IG Group as the tip of the spear of the IG diplomacy. The best thing about what Sako did this time around is that this was not one of those attempts with Professor Ayim to cause Ambazonians to mistake the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic for Ambazonia. That is definitely a plus. Ambazonians who do not support are eating up and loving any commentary that outrightly praise and flatter him for doing what Napoleon left undone. La République du Cameroun is laughing too, amused that Ambazonia is yet to win recognition from even a tiny country. Ambazonia who believe in this struggle and are offering their blood, tears and sweat for it should take comfort in the fact that Ambazonia's restoration quest is not a traditional independence campaign. Even the mighty United States had to wait more than 2 years after declaring their independence before they won recognition from the first country in the world, which happened to be the then relatively unknown Kingdom of Morocco. Led recognition by the American city of Lowe under Sisiko, the recognition by the Spanish Basque Country at the behest of Cho Ayabas, Egg of Sea, and Sako's most recent outing to Brazil be considered in this day and age as Ambazonia's Kingdom of Morocco. Those who laughed at the United States after Washington was recognized by the Kingdom of Morocco did not know where to hide their shame when other recognitions stumbled in. Those Ambazonians who continue to work diligently on the difficult task of winning diplomatic victories, no matter how small and no matter how quickly dismissed and ridiculed by the naysayers, including those who have won recognition for Ambazonia to be the other party at the table of negotiations with La République, take heart and prepare to have the last laugh when Ambazonia finally wins a long march to restoration. This is Tani Jude Agua Ozugen for Ambazonia Calling.
Boo, 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 boo. Whoa, baby. Manya anjanga kunakwa. My me boy na bama. Bobo baby, ubei angzigi. Ana feel mu ma pina kapi. Stop. Jam chimala ama nyama bonta. Ibusula lilina fata subonta. That's what the king said. That's what the king said to the messenger. Tum tuma bene bebo. Ala anyama bozu zento. This lion down the valley. I know the shepherd them divani. Hey, leaving the lion and a lamb with a broken leg. Left at the mercy for the lion just to chop it up. She got her back against the wall. She had to fight for her life. She had to stand. She couldn't die without the fight. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah.
This is Ambazonia Calling.
Because you have your army of occupation out in West Cameroon, you believe that when the people will rise, even if you took the whole of the French army and added to yours, you will never bring them down.
And I call on all Cameroon soldiers to lay down their arms within Ambazonia and to turn their arms against the very system that has made them slaves in the land of their birth.
For more stories from around the world, go to the World Wide Web at themissionstribune.com, compassfreepress.com, and africafreedomnetwork.com.
Here is our letter to Joshua.
Dear Joshua, every donor program is shutting the door in the face of the bread and sardine republic, I hear. Not good at all. I mean, the French managed to find a way of wiggling out the $200 million from the World Bank in direct budget support, and there's the 18 million euro coming from the African Development Bank, supposedly for the ring road, tarring of the ring road with $18 million, 400 kilometers of road. That would be what? You would tie it with mud? I mean, come on now. Don't tell me that when you said you will personally supervise the tarring of the ring road, you meant you were just going to do it with poto-poto? And to get $18 million, the French had to use their considerable corrupt weight in this institution. It is usually the case that when you can get your hands on credit, it means your credit score has to be good, not? It looks like not the same for you, because look at what just happened to the Chinese Export and Import Bank. They are just kicking you out. Just to think about the Chinese not giving you anything at all. They have not seen something they did not want to fund. Just nothing. I mean, Benyariko, rice and beans, puff-off business, they have funded it. But the bread and sardine republic, money to Angola, money to Nkunkuma, nothing is coming through. I know it's become so desperate that the first slave just wants to get the money for the grants. They have soldiers back out in the streets again, cleaning up the streets like they were cleaning up Sacred Heart in those good old days. Was it the bad old days when you still thought you owned Ambazonia? How the tables have turned now. It doesn't help all the stuff that's happening. Oxford University just submitted a report on human rights violations, and it looks horribly, horribly bad. And the United Nations Human Rights Commission, they're submitting a report, and it looks horribly, horribly, horribly bad. And a Canadian university just opened another compendium of human rights violations in Ambazonia. There's a genocide watch uptick. You are now number 16 out of 20. The world has got its eyes on you, Joshua. There's no way to escape those war crimes. You're going down. And did you hear what happened at the Security Council? It was not good at all. Everybody says we want real negotiations to begin. You thought you had done it with the major national dialogue? It doesn't work that way. Ask the British. They received the Oxford University Human Rights Report, and they are fuming. Uncle Sam doesn't even want to hear anything you say unless you're talking negotiations, and they reaffirmed we are with the Swiss. So what to do, Joshua? Even France is running away from defending you before the Security Council. All the other members of the Security Council could just take you apart, especially Poland, just ripping through you. Maybe to make up for excluding you from the Exim Bank, China was the only one that was looking up. Russia, neither here nor there, especially because Moscow says they are going to be tabling this big motion next year to make sure that a thorough review of the decolonization process is brought to an end. That's what Minister Sergei Lavrov says. Nothing seems to be promising. And everything you planned about that passenger plane to Bamenda, everything, the fake attempt to shut it down, the decreeing of a no-fly zone over Ambazonia in the hope that you will stop the United Nations from delivering humanitarian assistance and watching from the sky every single thing that you are doing. Joshua, everything did not work. It's called Ndutu. That's when you know that you have Balok in overdrive. It's as if you won the lottery of ill luck. Abeg, Oya, carry your Balok come on from Ambazonia. Agraf me for day.
From our studios here in Washington, D.C., our producer is Jeff McCoy. Our music today is from Ken Wanaku, the monk from Balikumato, William Ford, an ambassador of blessed memory, Eric Matisse on the web at soundimage.org, and Prince Ajua Alemanji of Ajam Sonic Kitron, USA. Ambazonia Calling is a joint production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. You can find us on the web at www.themissionstribune.com, www.compassfreepress.com, and www.africafreedomnetwork.com. Next Sunday is another day. Until then, keep the spirit, keep the faith, keep up the fight for justice and independence for Ambazonia. Stay Amba strong.